Okay. Just to start off, I'm sure. Paul, you closing that door? Are you good? Okay. All right. So sorry. Just to start off, I'm sure you all saw the news this morning that Dikembe passed. He's been kind of a towering figure in the NBA for the last 30 years, really, not just in the NBA and basketball. And so I think for the game, it's a really sad day, and obviously not because of what he did on the court. He had a Hall of Fame basketball career, was an amazing player, but just because what he meant to the world. And for those of us here, it's much more personal. For myself, for Gretchen, for Tony, for Tracy, for all of our kind of longtime Rockets people. He was a coworker and a friend, and so on behalf of the Rockets organization and Tillman and the whole Fertitta family, my wife Felicia, we just want to give our deepest condolences to Rose and their children. It's just a really tough day for me personally. I kind of feel like we grew up together. And just he's a guy who was super comfortable in his own skin, and the result was he was just really a good friend and a good human being, and he will be missed. So on that note, we're happy to take any questions you have.
Any questions? Jackson?
Ime, last year you were pretty transparent about wanting to clean up a few areas of the game for this team going into the season, things like transition defense, points off turnovers. What areas or points of emphasis do you have going into this season, if any?
I feel we hit the benchmark on most of those. I think we saw it was night and day as far as where we were and where we got to in a lot of those areas. So at times we were focusing on specific things and not really emphasizing others. And we saw some trends that we're going the other way as far as things we were doing well without really emphasizing. So continue to double down on the things that we did well and try to be even better on the defensive end and clean up those numbers. But as well as focus on some offensive things that worked well for us second half of the season, specifically after All-Star break. So, like I said, we got from the 20s down to in the 5s, and those numbers were great. Number one in some things, but we feel there are some things that we can get back to doing very well that we did the previous year as well. So, the pace was great, the offensive rebounding late in the season, the shooting was better, and so I'd like to focus on some of those things as well as not skip any steps on the things we did well coming in.
Michael?
Hi, Ime. Good to see you again. Recent years, the conversation about this team has been about growth. Do you think it's valuable to have specific win totals, playoff mandate, anything like that heading into this year?
Yeah, I think last year even, we were talking about changing perception and being competitive and effort and all those things. And I think that foundation was kind of laid last year. And so we want to have carryover from that, obviously. But we did talk about win totals last year with everybody last year. And I think a few guys hit the mark. We fell short of a few guys as well. So we won't really specifically talk about wins this year, but playoffs is a goal. And that was a goal last year. We fell short of that. So we talked about some people thought it was a successful season. We fell short of the goals we had, but there was a lot of improvement across the board, and we want to take another step, obviously, with that. So we won't put a number on it, but we'll talk about the playoffs, and that's the goal.
Do you feel like your team was dissatisfied with missing out on the playoffs last year? Do you think that's a driver in the summer, so to speak?
Yeah, for sure. I think that we were up and down, quite honestly. Consistently winning and losing streaks are good when you're winning them, but some of the losing streaks we want to get rid of, obviously, and be more consistent across the board. And we know if we would have done that, we would have been in better shape to end the season. And so, even though 41 looks like a good total coming from where our guys were, that means you're pretty much losing one, winning one, all season. That's not a great feeling.
Chris?
Coach, right here. Coach, what expectations for Reed Shepherd this year?
Just to see him get accustomed to the NBA game, continue on the trajectory that he's on as a player, which is always taking really good leaps from high school to college and college to summer league, and just being in the gym with our guys. So for him, it's really learning the NBA game, similar to the rookies coming in last year. He'll be mentored by a lot of good veterans, and Fred, a guy that he can kind of emulate some of the things he does there. So the goal for him is to be comfortable and impact the game with his shooting, his IQ, and his toughness, and the things he brings to the table. So we're not talking about roles or defining anything right now. He'll kind of work his way through that, but we do have a lot of high upside for him.
Jonathan?
Phil, you make almost no changes, roster changes since last season. How much will this season's results impact or influence your decision-making, not just next summer, but for years to come, based on what you see this year?
Depends on what we see this year. I think that we didn't make changes because we really like the group. And hopefully this group of players takes another step forward, and at least the core of what we have can stay together for a long time and be very successful. It's definitely that is definitely plan A, but my job is to look at everything, and I always will, and kind of each step of the way, whether it's now or at the trade deadline or next summer, you kind of have to freshly reevaluate. Things don't always turn out the way you want them to, and it's kind of a continuous process.
Ime, do you have an update on some of the players who were injured late, like Tari, how he's doing, how Adam's coming along, and Alfie?
Yeah, I mean, Alpern, he's back. He's fine. He was, if we would have made the playoffs, he would have been able to play. So he's had a great summer, and the work he's put in. Steven, has been going through his own process, and we've had him in the gym with us recently, so he's looking good. Tari, same thing, ramp up is there. I think with those guys, we'll be conscious of that they're coming off with injuries, and some hadn't played in a while, but what we've seen with their progress has been great. They've been in the gym with our guys, like I said, and for us, it'll be how we manage that, and be cognizant of the fact that they've been off for quite a amount of time, and look at the big picture. So we're happy with where they're at, and we'll monitor that as we go through camp and through the early part of the season.
Ben?
Ime, this is the first time in your career as a head coach that you're going into training camp as a year two guy. What are some of the things as a coach, as a coaching staff, that you guys can sort of implement with your playbook in year two that you can't in year one?
Oh, it's honestly not the first, I guess you would say. A lot of teaching last year, especially coming into camp. We can kind of hit the ground running with some of those things. Won't skip any steps as far as reiterating the points and what made us good last year, but there are things that we can add. Like I said, we saw things throughout the season that really worked for us, and we can zero in on those. And so for us, it's find out what works best for the group. And we have a lot of guys with different individual skill sets, but the group overall, what's going to make us the most successful, and we kind of zeroed in on some of those things. And for me, it's like I said, the terminology, the teaching points, the newness of me and my staff last year, and it takes some time for certain guys, but now we can kind of hit the ground running as far as that. And, to Rafael's point, we have the same roster pretty much coming back, the addition to Steven and Reed. And for us, that continuity is good. So we feel we don't have to teach as much, although we will continue to do that with our group, but we kind of hit the ground running, and been there, done that, and some things we can show them with video that they've done really well.
Bouchard?
This is for Mr. Stone. Now that you have an open roster spot, is there any plans to bring in another player before the start of the season, or are you pretty much going to stick with the existing roster?
We're open to it. I think I think it's less likely. I don't think we have playing time for all the guys I'd like to play as is, and so really we're looking at that as added flexibility, whether it's now or at the trade deadline or something else. But no, it definitely is possible depending on what shakes out around the league. It does. I like that flexibility, but I guess we'll just see. I didn't answer your question at all. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's hard to know sitting here right now. But I would say there are no immediate plans to fill it.
Coach, prior to being drafted, Amin Thompson was usually a lead guard, primary facilitator for his team. And then last season, we saw him kind of deployed, especially in the latter half of the season, kind of offensively as the center, right, setting a lot of screens, playing out of the dunker spot. What do you envision as his kind of role moving forward long term with this team?
Yeah, for him, I think he's a guy that, pretty much checks every box. If anything happens injury-wise, you can plug him into any position. And, I think he really learned to play off the ball some last year, which will only benefit him and our team going forward. But he's a guy that's great with the ball in his hands, great with the pace and the things that he does naturally. But like I said, teaching him that, it was due to necessity, obviously, out he goes out. And you can plug him into the 4 or 5 spot with Jabari out there. And, him being injured early, Aaron and Fred and some of those guys and Jalen were handling a lot more by the time he came back. And so for us, the flexibility and his versatility is great. Envision him being able to do everything, play on and off the ball, impact the game, obviously defensively and offensively in different ways. But the pace that he plays with and getting out in the open court is great when he has the ball off a rebound. But he also played in the dunker, and he's a great offensive rebounder. He's a great finisher around the rim, and he found the pocket and saw how good he did there once he learned to screen and roll a little bit. So that versatility is going to open up a lot of things for us. And if anything happens to happen as far as injuries, plug him in 1 through 5.
Adam?
Rafael, 2 quick questions. The first, are you optimistic about getting extensions done without being Jalen before the deadline?
That relates to their contracts, and I don't talk about our players' contracts. I don't think it's fair to them, so I'm not going to answer.
And the other question, Ime talked about goals of making the playoffs. For you, is there a goal of just wanting to see how this fits for another 82 games, just to get more information, just to see how things could look moving forward?
Yeah, I think that's like the answer to that one is like 100% yes. We kept the roster together because we like it and we're excited about it. And in that respect, this is probably the most exciting media day or start to camp I've ever had because I really am interested in how this group manages to mesh together. I think we have a really talented and really good coaching staff who are going to put these guys in positions to be successful. It feels to me like everybody's had a really good summer. Like our young guys are going to come back as better players than they were at the end of the year. We want to see how this whole thing fits together. So I am 100% that's something I'm looking forward to, definitely.
Adam?
Coach, with last year winning 41 games, Jalen's first team that was winning more often than not, now going into the offseason like that, do you think he's attacked this offseason maybe a little bit differently at a different stage in his career, understand what it's like to win? Just kind of what have you seen from him this offseason getting ready for the year?
Yeah, I would say him and all the young guys they got a taste of being competitive on a nightly basis, of having a chance to play for meaningful games late in the season. And so I think that's given everybody a little extra motivation in the offseason. Guys come back looking different, and you see the work that they put in, but Jalen understanding what it took for him to be successful and be a well-rounded player. You can take those things in the offseason and not just work on specifics, but knowing what we're asking of him. He'll obviously have a different view on the things he has to work on, and so he's put in the work this summer. We've all been around each other and in and out of Houston, seen him in California quite a bit, and so he's a guy that's had a really good summer as well as a lot of our young guys, and so I think that understanding and that motivation to take a bigger step. We always say the onus is on our young guys to take that step, but that's kind of who they are, and we'll add those guys in their skill sets. And Steven brings some things that we didn't have, but Jabari, Jalen, Amin, Tari, those guys being healthy and taking another step is going to be the biggest part of our growth.
We'll take 2 more turns.
Rafael, this is Rafael. How much of a conscious decision was it to kind of basically keep things intact, as they were?
Yeah, it was we looked at every opportunity, but no, it was very conscious. Felt like we saw good growth. We draft for the with respect to our young players, we drafted them all. We liked them a lot when we drafted them, and I think with all of them we like them better now. And so we want to see where this group can go, and so it was a very conscious decision.
Jeff?
Coach, a number of us had a chance to see the new training facility. I'm wondering what your impressions of it now that it's put together and you've had a little bit of a chance to work out there.
Yeah, it's good. It's great. Obviously, something that I've been accustomed to. Some of the younger guys here only know the arena, and I think the space and the extra court and the added amenities are welcomed. Our young guys got a chance to get some practice in before summer league, and then the vets got back in, and it's all been glowing reviews, obviously. And so, it gets a little monotonous coming to the same place every day, and I think that's kind of a home away from home where guys can kind of relax and take advantage of all the things that we didn't have. And don't have to go to Louisiana for training camp and certain things like that because we have the space now. And although we love the Golden Nugget and the State, but no, it's great. I think a lot of guys are accustomed to that, and I've been to some places with newer facilities: Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Boston, and stacks right up there, if not better.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.